Hey everyone, my name is Mark Taylor and today is Rant time. I'm going to be talking about book series that don't have complete stories within each book, and in particular, especially that first book in a series that just ends on a stinking cliffhanger. Or, not even that, more specifically, the book that doesn't actually end up completing any sort of story or plot within the book itself. It says, hey, you want to find out what happens next? Stay tuned. This would be my ideal situation. In a series, any book series should have an overarching plot that continues throughout each book. There are threads of it in each book, and you know that at the end of the series, the culmination of this is it's going to complete that story, it's going to complete that plot, and that main, big, massive idea, whatever it is. It could be a big family, it could be a big family reunion, it could be who killed someone, it could be what that mysterious thing actually was that was calling out to them from space. It could be anything. But each book should have its own plot, should have its own story that is finished, that is completed within the story, and then you can have these little strings that are tying you to the rest of the big plot that can make you want to read the next book. But it should have its own characters, have its own story, and really, if the characters are compelling enough within themselves, you shouldn't have to end something on a cliffhanger to get someone to read the next book. They want to read the next book because, wow, I really enjoyed that story, I really enjoy those characters, and so the next book that comes out, I would love to experience that as well. I don't have to have something that is yanking me around with a chain to get me to read the next book. So I was listening, I read books and I listen to books, and I was listening to a book called Annihilation, and this book is a best-selling book by Jeff Vandermeer, and I have heard the book recommended to me by bookstore employees. It was made into a movie with Natalie Portman. It is a massive success as far as the series, I think it's a trilogy. And so anyway, I started listening to it on a road trip, and I listened to it, and I got to the end of the book, and I really contemplated just swerving off the road because I was so frustrated and so ticked off by how the book ended. The main plot, and don't worry, there's no spoilers here because nothing's revealed, nothing actually happens, but if you don't want to know what happens, goes on, spoiler alert. The main plot of the book is that this Area X has shown up, and scientists don't really know what Area X is, and it seems to be spreading a little bit, and so they send expeditions in, and they either don't come out or they come out and they're completely changed. And the main character's husband was part of one of these expeditions, and so he came back and was just not himself, and so she wants to know what happened. So she goes on an expedition with 3 other women, and they are the scientists that make this up, and as they go, the main things you want to know, you're trying to find out, is what is Area X, what's going on here. The biology there is completely bizarre and weird and seems to have human elements in the DNA and all this kind of stuff. There's this lighthouse, the map seems to change, everything just is off, and it doesn't make any sense. Team members are killed, there's weird moaning creatures, you don't know what anything is. So you get to the end of the book, and let me read the summary on Wikipedia of the last paragraph. There's this weird crawling thing that's in this tower that they find that writes on the walls using like living algae, and so you're wanting to know what is it writing about. I mean, all these questions, you've got tons of questions, and you're drawn into this story. So this is the final paragraph of this book, or this is the final summary of the ending of this book, and this is how it ends. And if you've got questions at the end, don't worry, you're not alone. Having read her husband's journal, the biologist decides to return to the tunnel to see if she can find the crawler, the one that was writing on the walls with the algae. She makes her way down the spiral staircase and eventually finds the crawler. After a nearly fatal encounter, she continues down the stairs until she comes in sight of a door. Wow, what's inside this door? What could it lead to? Unable to continue, she returns and passes the crawler without further incident, but looks back to see the unaged face of the lighthouse keeper within it. There's a lighthouse that she found some journals. The book closes with the biologist stating she does not plan to return home. Instead, she decides to stay in Area X and find perhaps any part of her late husband's presence, which she believes remains somewhere in Area X. That's it. The end of the book ends with her saying, I'm going to stay in Area X and try to find some answers. All the answers that this stinking book has been raising from the very first page. There is no end to the actual story. There's no end to this segment of the story. There's no end to that plot. There's no answers given. In fact, all the questions you have lead to a final, however many pages that make more questions. She finds this door at the bottom of this big tower, but doesn't go through it. She encounters the crawler. Oh, I was so mad. I could go on and on. Anyway, this idea that you could have a full movie or a full book that does not tie up anything for the reader, for the audience, is so frustrating and makes no sense. You can still have all of these elements about what is Area X. I'm going to find more things about it, but there has to be something that is concluded. This is an entire book we're talking about. And so you have even the Maze Runner, which I think still doesn't really tell you anything or complete anything. They at least get out of the maze. Listen to the Maze Runner, and they get to the end of the maze, and surprise, it's something else, right? No spoilers here. It's something, I don't even really remember it. But I didn't care to go on because this maze thing, it turns out that it wasn't anything that was of consequence. It was actually just part of another thing. And so it kind of felt like, I'm so flummoxed, I had to cut that last part. But the maze, they at least get out of the maze. That concludes that section of the story, and I didn't really care to continue going on. And I felt like they really did kind of just leave it as a cliffhanger and say, hey, everything that you thought was real is not real. And then find out what happens next. But they did, I finished the story and they got out of the maze. And so in that sense, it absolutely concluded that part of the plot and that segment of the overall story. And so in that sense, the Maze Runner was a lot better at this. And then, I've got books like Pandoras Star, which is, this is by Peter F. Hamilton. And this Pandoras Star is 1,000 pages long, and I think this is the very last sentence of this is the Pathfinder fell off the edge of the world. They're sailing on this big ocean on this planet, and the last sentence is they fell off the end of the world. That's how it concludes. That was very frustrating to me. However, the book itself was so well written, and there was so much in that book that I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the characters, the big plot was interesting. It's only 2 books, so it's not this massive investment. Granted, each book is about 1,000 pages long, so I could at least go on with that. And then you've got the movie Prometheus, which I was so pumped about. And Prometheus, same sort of thing as Annihilation. It makes you ask all these questions. There's this black goo that's very important, but this black goo does something completely different to every single person who encounters it. It kills some people, it infects some people, it makes zombies out of some people, it impregnates some people with aliens, and then by the end of the movie, you don't have any answers to any of this, and it's basically the idea is, wait till the next movie, it's going to answer all your questions. No, I just paid for a 2.5 hour movie that asked a bunch of questions and didn't answer anything. I was so frustrated. This video is getting long. I could rant about this all the time, but I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will talk to you next time.